welcome to GlassBuild America. We are here in Orlando, Florida. My name is Jenni Chase. I'm the VP of Workforce Development for the National Glass Association. And sitting with me today is Joshua Johnson, founder of Pardon Me, and Amy Hadfield, Director of Apprenticeship for the National Glass Association. So today we are here to talk about apprenticeship, what it means for the glass and glazing industry, what are some of the common myths associated with apprenticeship, how it can benefit our members in the industry in general. So let's start with a softball. Amy. And maybe this isn't a softball, you're like, oh yeah, right. So tell us a little bit, for those who have not encountered Glazier apprenticeship before, tell us what it is.
Sure. So at its core, an apprenticeship is really a training model. It's just designed to get somebody trained in a particular occupation or a trade, in our case, glazing. When you step back a little bit more, it's a regulated, structured training program. So rather than every individual company having to reinvent the wheel, it gives structure. It focuses on on-the-job training, so hands-on learning, which a lot of people prefer to classroom training, and then supplements that hands-on learning with very directly related classroom training. So it allows a person to learn a trade from a more experienced worker while employed, in general, not going into any sort of student debt, and gives them, again, that structure of, I start here, I know what skills I'm going to be learning throughout my program, and when I complete, I will be a glazer, and I will be able, again, to work and be paid the whole time. Okay, so in a nutshell, it is a structured training program for people who want to become a skilled glazer. Typically, they're what, 3 years? Usually 3 years, yep. Occasionally 4, usually
right.
3. Yep.
Upon completion, you're a journey worker. You get your certificate from the Department of Labor. And this is open to non-union companies. Like, that's one of the myths, right, Josh, that people think this is only a union path.
Yeah, I think that's, one of the things with apprenticeship, one of the biggest myths is that, we're thinking about, especially when you leave outside of construction, and even once you live outside of manufacturing, people think it just has to be a union tie.
Right.
But apprenticeship is agnostic. Apprenticeship is, as Amy said, it's a structured training program, and it's a training program for employers who really want to build their workforce, whether internal workforce, the incumbent workforce, or to use it as a training tool to bring other individuals in. So yeah, many times we have to dispel that myth. That it has to be tied directly to a union to actually be a registered apprenticeship program.
Right. So tell me, what other myths do you encounter when you're talking to people about apprenticeship that we should dispel, like right off the bat?
One important one is that it's only for construction trades. And again, our focus is the construction industry, but if I'm an employer that needs glazers, but I also need a trained HR assistant or a bookkeeper or an IT specialist, apprenticeship can help with all of those. And I think the other biggest one that I run into, and I'm guessing you've got similar experience, Josh, is if I'm a small company, I can't possibly handle this. And that's not the case. It's, state to state, it's very different in paperwork and that sort of thing, but in general, there are ways to do an apprenticeship even if you're a small business.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest myths I heard when I was the state director of apprenticeship in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Companies, when my staff would talk to companies, they said, well, we're not big enough to have an apprenticeship program. It's like, wait, what do you mean big enough? Some of the most successful companies we had were small manufacturers who literally had a husband and a wife and one worker. They were some of the most successful programs we had because they built a system, they trained that worker, and that worker either stayed there or went to somewhere else, and they built their workforce through that. One of the other big myths that I've heard is that apprenticeship is the alternative to going to college. And that's a horrible myth.
Talk to me about that, because that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a horrible myth. So somewhere along the line, I don't know who, where, when, what, or how, when we find out, let's go back and have a conversation with them. But somebody made this myth that individuals have now believed that participating in an apprenticeship program is an alternative to attending college, when it's not. Actually, most apprenticeship programs have some type of college tied to them. All the apprenticeship programs have some type of related training instruction. No matter what, they have that tied in. There's a learning component. I always used to say it's the 80-20. 80% on the job, 20% classroom learning. Some of that's tied to private training centers. some are tied to technical colleges, community colleges, some are tied to four-year universities. So dispelling that myth, that has been one of the biggest things in my career that I've had to do is, really help individuals and parents. Parents were some of the hardest ones to convince, because they're like, well, if my kid isn't going to college, then they're not successful. And I have to explain to them, I said, well, that's not how that works, right? Going into an apprenticeship, they're entering into the workforce. And I remember one of the things I used to say to the media, we celebrate kids who sign to go play college sports. We celebrate kids who sign up to go to the military. We celebrate kids who sign just to go to college. But we never celebrate the kids who make a responsible decision to enter the workforce after high school. Mm-hmm. And many times entering the workforce after high school is going into an apprenticeship program. Right. So we have to dispel that myth, and we have to let people understand that, no, it's not an alternative.
Right.
And many times it is college, and it holds the same weight. You're still gaining that needed experience to get into the workforce. Because I always say this, you can go to college and get all of the theoretical knowledge you can handle. But one thing you're going to have to do eventually, into the workforce.
Right.
And that's where apprenticeship comes in and gives you the ability to continue to grow your skills in that area.
Absolutely. So there's a need to educate kids who are coming out of high school, who are making a choice, am I going to go to college? Am I going to go into a trade? Am I going to go to culinary school, whatever their choices are, about the options for apprenticeship. And in our industry, there is the opportunity to, join the union. That's a great way to get into the industry, become an apprentice, join the workforce. Alternatively, you can also join non-union companies who now have the opportunity through NGA to offer apprenticeship programs. And it's a nice, you get trained in a structured way, there's wage progression, and you come out of it with a skill, and let's be real, no college debt. So that's a really big thing these days.
And actually, I think we're just touching on another common myth as well, which is apprenticeship is only for young people. Only for people.
Let's talk about that, because right, we know that there's
I've had apprentices in their 60s. Is it mostly young people? Absolutely, and that is a prime audience, especially. Kids these days are coming out of high school understanding that college costs a fortune and may not bring much of a return on investment. So kids today are more aware of other paths, other opportunities, and that college may not be the best path forward. But somebody in their mid-20s that's gone to college and maybe completed and hasn't been able to find a great job, or somebody who dropped out, or somebody in their mid-30s who's done the office game and doesn't want to do that anymore, they're all prime candidates to be apprentices.
Yeah, or somebody who gets out of prison at the age of 27.
Absolutely.
And enters into an apprenticeship, as I did, to become a construction craft laborer. I remember we went on a trip to Germany. This is right before the pandemic happened, when I was a state director. We met an apprentice over there who was 32 years old. And he was an apprentice, right? And he's like, I had a shift. He's from America. He's not German, so he relocated. His wife was in the military. He ended up relocating over there, needed to build his skills up, and entered into an apprenticeship program.
Interesting.
Now, it was funny because most of the people that were there were like kids. They were like 18, 19 years old, right? He's
going back to school.
Yeah, he's like the old guy, right? He's 32. He's the old guy. But you see this messaging doesn't get out that apprenticeship is good not only for youth, but it's also good for mid-career changers. Yeah. It's good for anybody. In fact, one of my good friends literally just sent me a message the other day, and he said, I want to future-proof myself. Like, he owns a business back in Milwaukee. He owns a video game business. And he's like, I want to future-proof myself. What are good occupations to look at to become an apprentice? And his last question was, how old is too old to be an apprentice? There is no age on being an apprentice. It's all about, are you willing to learn and willing to learn those skills.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of apprenticeship from an employer point of view, right? So we're at GlassBuild America. We've got glass company owners who are just learning about apprenticeship themselves. So as a glass company owner, what can apprenticeship do in terms of employee retention, access to public works projects? What is your message to them about why they should participate?
You want to go?
I mean, it's kind of the sky's the limit almost. To have a successful business, investing in your people matters. An apprenticeship is a very clear way to demonstrate to your workforce that you are invested in their training. So it does absolutely help with retention, not only of the apprentices, but of other employees that, again, see that the employer is willing to invest in people.
Okay.
So just having an apprenticeship program kind of levels you up, in the community, in your, in the eyes of your workers. Obviously, apprentices tend to stay. It's still at will employment. An apprentice can leave or be terminated if necessary, but in general, an apprentice stays with the company that gave them that opportunity. I know, Josh, you want to jump in on any?
Yeah, no, you hit some real good ones. That's why I pointed to you first. Like your firsthand experience, most recent firsthand experience, really working with employers and helping them understand like what the value is. I think one of the biggest value propositions that I've always talked to employers about, what is it going to take for you to compete locally, to compete nationally, and to compete globally? And the answer to that question typically is, I need people. We hear that from employers all the time. I need people. Where are people at? Well, I'm willing to train. We were laughing about this. We'll call it backstage when we were over talking on the other side. But we were laughing about this. Employers they're always saying we're willing to train, but then they want all these requirements for it to hire an individual in to their company. And it's like, so what are you willing to train? Are you like willing to train them where the break room is? Like, help me understand what you're willing to train, because you're not willing to train them the skills they need to be successful if you have all these requirements. So thinking about how the employers, what can help them compete. One of the other things I think about, one of the biggest benefits to employers, Amy, you touched on this a little bit, it shows loyalty to your employees.
Right.
In a very tight job market where individuals will cross the street for a quarter, and that's no lie that happens. They'll cross the street for a quarter, you have to give them something. You have to give that employee some type of value that they can't get somewhere else. And we think about the generation coming up, our kids' generation, they're not even worried about a quarter anymore. They're worried about how are you investing in me as a person. So apprenticeship gives that ability because it's transparent. It's not like a typical job where you go and it's, hey, next year, Jenny, we're going to do a review and, we'll see about that raise we want to give you. Or Amy, there's potential promotion in place. Apprenticeship shows you that structure for the length of the program. It shows you what you're going to learn. It shows you when you're going to learn it. It shows you when you're going to get paid, and it shows you when it's going to be done. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits to employers is how to utilize that for their recruitment, for their retention. And that can be used on incumbent workers as well as attracting in new talent.
Right. Yep. And so one of the things that we're doing here at GlassBuild is educating the industry about how NGA can help meet the need for apprenticeships. So it is, Amy is our director, so she may disagree, but she's like, well, I'm doing the work, Jenny.
Where are we going?
But where are we going? Exactly. I'm like, it's so easy. But we've really worked hard to make it easy for non-union companies to participate in apprenticeship. We have the curriculum, we have experienced staff who can help you set up an apprenticeship program, who can guide you through the process. We have the NGA Foundation, which helps pay for curriculum and offset any of the costs associated with apprenticeship. So, to the podcast universe, I would encourage you to look at the apprenticeship program available through NGA. To talk to myself or Amy. This is the first of several conversations we're going to be having about apprenticeship. The next, we're going to be doing a webinar in December on the topic. So, we got to hit the floor, but I really appreciate both of your time today and getting the conversation started, and we will be continuing it. Forever? I don't know. Hopefully not forever, but for a while.
Well, it may take forever to get it started, but once it gets started, it's a well-oiled machine.
Exactly.
Once those employers understand once they understand what comes of it, what's the value that comes from it. And I would say, for those employers, don't be scared. Don't be scared to engage.
Exactly.
You have individuals like Amy to talk to. You have her to talk to have that conversation. She can help you navigate that whole process. So
we are here to make it accessible and easy for you, and the benefits are very real, as we've discussed.
And are we closing out here? I always close out.
Close out.
All right, I always close out with my famous saying from my very good friend and predecessor, State Director Karen Morgan. There are good ships and wood ships, and ships that sail the sea. But the best ships are apprenticeships. and may they always be.
Fantastic. All right. See ya.